those labels, grammar school, logic school, and rhetoric school, for those who are not classical education people, what does that mean?
Yeah. So the classical education trivium is basically divided into stages of development. And so where most children would call, would go to an elementary school, that's what we call our grammar school. And that's because we're teaching the basic grammar of all the different subjects. It's full of memorization because the kids are aptly memorizing at the time. They're like little sponges and they can soak up all those um, great memory songs, and there's just a ton of singing and chanting and memorization during that period. Then once they move from memorizing and just loving to learn, then they really want to process what they're learning and they start thinking about it, and that's when they move into the logic age. And so that's when we get the maybe a little bit argumentative middle school period where they're always questioning things and pushing buttons. That's we want to teach them how to argue well. So if you're going to do it right. And we do teach formal logic and informal logic during that stage.
Nice.
So it helps them to dissect a bit the memory work that they've worked so hard for in grammar. And then the rhetoric stage is where they take those ideas that they've picked apart in logic stage and begin to formulate really coherent arguments and able to communicate what they feel. In the rhetoric stage, we do primary sources in logic and rhetoric, so they're reading a lot of ancient texts. But really, in that rhetoric stage, they're able to process the information and internalize it a bit and make it their own. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Very neat. Very neat. Awesome. So as you know, I was homeschooled.
Yes.
I had kind of, from a lot of people's perspective, a unique education experience, but it was very much classical education.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you knew this, but when I was in 8th grade, I took 2 classes at the local Christian classical school. I took Algebra 1 and Physical Science.
Okay.
And I remember the thing that frustrated me so much as a homeschooler coming into a normal school was there was a lot of waiting, and it felt like there was a lot of wasted time in a traditional school setting. So is that with y'all's different classroom structure and, with multiple grades combined, how is, I guess, the time utilized so that is less of a thing?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. It's one of those things that was a deterrent for me too, from what we came from, is just as a teacher, I could witness my own wasted time.
Uh-huh.
Managing children was difficult to actually get to the education of children because you're physically having to put them in places and get them ready and prepared. And so I absolutely agree with that. One of the ways, of course, anytime there's more than 2 children together, there's going to be chatter.
Yes.
Stuff. But one of the ways that we've tried to lean into that at Ordo Amoris is that we're using the block schedule, and that for our upper and for our logic and rhetoric school students. So
okay.
They will take most of their classes 2 days a week with an hour and a half long class rather than daily for 45 minutes. So we do this is because a 45-minute class usually takes about 10 minutes to get started, and then it takes about 5 minutes to close down. So there's 15 minutes, so you've got 30 minutes. You can't do Socratic discussions in 30 minutes. You can't even get to the beginning of a really good lecture or discussion during that time. So we organize our school day into blocks, and that allows us to have a much more intentional and effective class time. It allows the classical model that of our methods to actually be put into place a little bit more than you would in a typical 45-minute. I know a lot of schools do it and they do it well, but it's one of those we wanted to try to really maximize the time that the kids are using in class. And just without our small class sizes and our testing for the folks to come in. We're not for everyone. We're really pretty specialized on who the students that we'll allow to come in, and that's not to sound that we don't want to reach out to with a lot of different learning needs and different things, but for our school, for the time that we have, you have to be able to complete the work. And so I think our application process and admittance process kind of weeds out a little bit of that extra,
I see. Yes.
And some of the things.
Yes. What is your application process?
So we go through a few different steps. First, we require that all of our families go through a kind of a tour day, come and learn about us. And before you even decide to apply, because we want to make sure that you're understanding what you're getting into.
Yes.
It's so funny because a lot of people are asking, their first question is, well, what's your stand on homework? And I was like, well, we're a 4-day school week, so we do homework.
Right.
I just want people to have that information on the front end so they're not surprised and, later on. So we do ask that they come for an information session and a tour just to be sure that this is something they're really looking into.
Mm-hmm.
We go through, and after the application is something they want to proceed with and they go through the application process, we'll call the children in for an assessment and make sure that they're on the level that we need them to be on. At that time, we'll go through a family interview. If things have checked through, we'll go through a family interview where, for our school, both parents have to be active members in an evangelical Christian church. So we ask for their testimonies. We ask for, some pretty deep questions about the family.
Yeah.
Else, because we really we'd like to protect our culture of the school. We do require that, like I said, both parents are active members at evangelical churches, but we have to have a letter from their pastors for the come in, and that's usually the rigmarole that you have to go through. It's a couple steps, but we found that it has been a very effective and helpful way for us to really focus on the families that are on board with how we.
Yes. So to build the culture of the organization, it is not, I guess, a missionarily focused school. It's focused. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and that's.
Yeah. Our mission is to assist Christian parents. So, and that's in our statement. It's in all of our marketing and any of our publications, because we really, those are the families. That's our niche, and so those are that we know that we can help the most.